it's because Ajahn, when we've been online, has been reaching out to places like Nepal and Australia and America and Switzerland. And so we get contributions that we would not normally have had in the past. And of course also, oh, Margaret's disappeared. Where's Margaret gone? Can you hear Kamina? I think you're muted.
Look, I was just thinking there was too much light, but I've lost Margaret. I can't see her.
I've lost her too. I've lost her too. I don't know where Margaret is. She'll have to try and rejoin.
All right.
I'll give her a minute or two before we start. It looks as though it's just us today.
Yeah, I thought it started at 12:30. I wrote down 12:30, but the last time we was 1 p.m, so it must be 1 p.m.
Yes, I got that wrong in my communication.
Oh, that's where I wrote it down from.
I put another out this morning correcting it.
Okay, thank you.
So I may have caused a little confusion.
No, well, it's good because I was sitting, getting ready to the intentions and trying to resist not putting on the washing machine and then just wait till afterwards.
Yeah. Same for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it another
Is
minute.
Margaret sitting in her room that you could let her in?
Well, I'm not sure now. I'm just going to send Suzanne a message.
Yes, David, I hear you.
Are there people in the waiting room?
No, it's unlocked. Anybody can come and join.
Okay.
Whoever got the passwords, and they will join without our.
And you have to let them in.
We don't have to let them in.
No?
They will join.
Okay.
No.
So Margaret's disappeared, and I see someone, NG, has joined us. Would you like to identify yourself, at least by name, either in the messaging board or by putting your video on briefly or telling us? NG?
Hi, sorry, I just joined. This is Natalie.
Okay. Is this your first time to join us?
No, David, it's Natalia. Natalia.
Natalia, okay.
Yeah. Now it says Natalie, but...
Sorry, Natalie.
Okay. And Margaret is back with us again. Margaret, are you there? Can you unmute? No, okay. So I'm going to start. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. If you can't hear me, send a message or put your video on and just shake your head. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. We're a smaller group today, but thank you for joining us. Margaret tells me she can't unmute. Keep trying, Margaret. There should be a button. Normally in the bottom left-hand corner. With a red cross on the microphone. A little red microphone with a cross on it. Okay. And Natalie, if you want to unmute at any time, I think you know how to do that. So this is our regular practice online, the second Monday of every month. And Ajahn has asked me to lead it today because he had a very long day yesterday, from very early morning, right through the Katina. I think there were about 80 people came. What I do know is our car park was the fullest I've ever seen it. And so it was a very successful day, combining some teaching, some meditation practice, chanting, offering dana, and then the final celebration in the afternoon. And as Margaret said, we the host has to let you unmute. Okay, Margaret. Ajahn, if you're listening, could you unmute Margaret? And maybe everyone, so that everyone can contribute at an appropriate time. So our practice today, if you remember last time we met, Ajahn had suggested some very simple mindfulness practices that we can do every day. And of course, this is the point of mindfulness meditation practice, whether you're practicing samatha or whether you have the intention to progress to vipassana meditation, where we develop our insight into how the mind truly works. And we can see how the mind works when we practice some very simple practices, which were suggested on the last occasion. On the last occasion, Ajahn had suggested some practices. Margaret, welcome back.
Thank you.
Ajahn had suggested some very simple practices, mindful eating, where we actually turn our attention undisturbed to what we're doing when we're doing it. Smelling the smells, tasting the taste, seeing the colors, sometimes even hearing the sound of the food. We've lost Natalie again. And as Carmina was saying earlier, counting the steps on the stairs when we walk up the stairs and come down again. And noticing that when we walk up the stairs, we count 10 stairs, but when we walk down the stairs, we maybe count 11, or the other way round. And then our monkey mind gets going. Why is that? Why do we count 10 steps up the way and 11 steps down the way? And the mind, which is conceptual, starts to try and work out, why is it different? Instead of simply accepting, when we go up, we count 10, and when we come down, we count 11. And when we're eating, we can taste spicy taste, soft taste, rough taste, depending on what we're eating. Sometimes mashed potato can be very lumpy, and sometimes it can be very creamy. So mindful eating, mindful walking up and down the steps, just simple mindful walking when we're out, noticing the contact with the ground. All these practices are very simple practices of mindfulness meditation in real life. And of course, mindfulness meditation practice and developing mindfulness is only really very helpful if we take it into our daily lives. Calming the mind, giving attention to what we're doing, when we're doing it, still aware of what's going on around us, still fully aware of what's going on around us, but not distracted by it. And that's why we practice distraction on the breath. So we know we're being distracted when we are actually distracted. And of course, Margaret and Kamina, you will both know that the practice of meditation on the breath allows us to practice with distractions that then calm the mind, take us into a mindful state of tranquility, where we can be mindful on what we're doing when we're doing it, meditation on the breath, rather than being distracted by this and that. And it's that practice day in, day out that helps us into our everyday lives. And unless we become a monk and go into retreat, no matter how much we practice, we will always from time to time be distracted. That is in the nature of life. Whether it's sitting to have a cup of coffee, distracted by the radio, the telephone, a noise outside, looking at our telephones, an email comes in and goes ping, and we suddenly react to it. Yeah? And that's okay. As long as we know what we're doing when we're doing it. We turn our attention from this and turn our attention fully onto something else. But knowing that when we've turned our attention, we turn our attention back again. And that is what dealing with distractions is all about. Our mind becomes aware of a distraction. We turn our attention to that distraction. We accept it and acknowledge it for what it is. It's just a distraction. Fully aware of it. But then we bring our attention back to what we're doing when we're doing it. And that is the practice of meditation on the breath, noting what's happening, when it's happening, dealing with distractions in exactly the same way, and then coming back to the breath. And yesterday, we had plenty of time to practice when we were sitting in the marquee, because there were people coming and going, some people in the background preparing the food, some people chatting when perhaps they should have been meditating. The noise of the wind, the flapping of the marquee as it blew against the frame. Lots of opportunities to be distracted in our meditation. And so yesterday, the practice of meditation was a good challenge in real life. Dealing with the distractions of the wind and the flapping sound and the background noise, people preparing food, And every time being aware of it, acknowledging it for what it was, accepting it for what it was, just the sound, just the noise, and coming back to the breath. And in fact, it would have been very easy yesterday to meditate on the wind, especially because it was gusting. Sometimes it would go quiet and then there'd be a big gust. And all we're doing is meditating on sound. The wind creates sound. The wind creates a sensation on our skin. Sometimes it was very cold and you could feel your fingers and your toes nipping. Other times, the fingers and toes would feel quite warm. So yesterday was in real life a very good opportunity to meditate on the breath and use the sounds around us to practice dealing with distractions. So let's do some of that now. Finding that comfortable position. And let's just sit with our eyes open for just a minute. And be aware of the space we're in. Rest the eyes somewhere in front of you. Just be aware of the space we're in. Be aware of the walls, the ceiling and the floor. Be aware of the sounds. And be aware of the silence. Perhaps even silence has a sound. Does the sound interfere with the silence? Or does the silence interfere with the sound? And in your own time, gently closing the eyes. First of all, checking posture. Back upright. Hands across the lap, right over left. Thumbs touching if you wish. Or resting on the thigh. And notice the feet in contact with the ground. Simply be aware of how that contact feels. Notice how your feet feel in the shoes and socks. They feel tight or loose, cool or warm. Bringing attention to the ankles and upwards to the knees. Noticing any sensations or feelings. Up to the hips and the waist. You might notice noises around the belly. And up to the chest. Just be aware of any sensations, not wanting them, not creating them, not grasping. Just noticing whatever there is. Left arm down to the hand and fingers. And right arm. Now round to your back. Notice the contact with the chair. Feel the sensation of clothing touching the skin. And up to the shoulders. If your shoulders feel stiff or there's tension, just move them a little. Release the tension from the muscles. Then through the neck to your mouth, cheeks, nose, eyes, ears. How does it feel around the ears? If you have no headphones, it will feel one way. If you have headphones, it'll feel a different way. And then up around the forehead, to the top of the head. For creating the intention to maintain that still posture. Letting go of all responsibilities. Not too concerned about the past, it's gone. Can't change it. With wisdom, we can learn from it. And not too concerned about the future. All things change. With that commitment to maintain our posture, back upright, hands relaxed, and turn our attention mindfully to the primary object where we practice. Fully aware of the body sensations, but concentrating on the breath. The abdomen or the nostril. And as we turn attention, we notice the abdomen rising. And we breathe in. And we notice the abdomen falling when we breathe out, contracting. And wherever we practice, on the chair in front of the screen like this, sitting in the car, on the toilet seat, in the bus, this is the practice. Noticing breath in and noticing breath out. And because we can't see the breath, we notice it by noting the abdomen, expanding and contracting, breath in and breath out. Actively noting each breath in and actively noting each breath out. Sometimes there may be a shallow breath. We don't look for it, we don't want it, we don't create it. If it's there, we notice. And if it's not, we don't. Breathing in, breathing out. In the same way, we may notice a deep breath. Or a long breath or short breath. Or we may notice a short stop, at the top of the breath, or a tiny stop at the end of the breath. You notice it if it's there, and if it's not there, you just breathe. And it's the same with external distractions. Sounds, smells, sense of touch. When we become aware of it, or sometimes aware that our mind is already creating a story. When we're aware of it, we notice sound, smell, touch, thought. And we let it drift off like a cloud in the sky. As we bring our attention back to the breath, breath in, noting breath in, breath out, noting breath out. Breathing in, breathing out. And if we maintain that practice and maintain our body stillness, we begin to find calmness and tranquility. You don't have to actively note, because the mind is already there. The distractions lessen. And we become gradually more peaceful. The body doesn't need to move, because the body is relaxed and peaceful too. And we find ourselves fully in the moment, fully aware of what's happening when it's happening. Not judging this or that, not judging ourselves. simply accepting things as they are. Breathing in, noting I'm breathing in, and breathing out, noting I'm breathing out. Simply being with the breath, undistracted, without judgment. And sometimes the distraction is simply that monkey on the shoulder wants us to move the body. And before we know it, that's what we do. To help us with that is always a thought. Just before we move the body is a thought to move the body. The part of the practice is to notice the thought as it arises. And when we notice it, we simply say, no, thank you. I like my meditation practice just as it is. And come back to the breath rising and falling. Breathing in, breathing out. And now turning your attention to your hands. Noticing the sensations around the hand. Feel the touch, feel the contact. Dryness or dampness. And move your attention to the eyes and the sensations around the eyes. And when you're ready, mindfully, gently open the eyes and reflect for a few moments. Okay, so Margaret is unmuted now. I don't know if Jean is still there, if he's been practicing with us or if he's gone off for sleep. But because he's hosting it, Carmina, can you unmute? Yes?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So, what would you like to share? What would you like to ask? Would you like to share something about your practices, eating, walking up the stairs, in everyday life?
I'd like to know, you know, with the eating, how comes when you're eating and you think yourself that you're satisfied, your body still wants a bit more? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You went very crackly again. Suddenly, before you were clear, and now you're very crackly again.
It was, oh no, it was just to do with eating, saying that while you're eating, you sort of get satisfied, and then your body wants more, but you don't want to give it more.
Margaret, can you hear Carmina?
It's very crackly. It's distorted.
I think I'll write it in the chat.
Carmina, can you unmute yourself? You're muted again. Okay. Margaret, do you want to share anything?
Well, last week I was down in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And with the COP26, we had great difficulty getting a taxi. So when we came out of the family get together, we thought was a taxi ordered, but never turned up. So we thought we'd flag one down. So nobody stopped. So I had to mindfully walk all the way back to the hotel with my family. They were complaining about how cold it was, how wet it was, how far it was, and I didn't say a word.
Carmina, don't worry about it now. Just listen if you can't unmute. So you just let it be.
I just let it be, and I didn't think how far it was because I had no idea. So I just took one step after another and I got there eventually. And they were all cold, they were cold, they were tired, they were this, they were that.
And did you teach them some mindfulness meditation while you were waiting?
No, I don't think they were in a frame of mind to teach them anything because my daughter-in-law had no coat. But I had my coat, so I was fine. And she had high-heeled shoes on, which didn't help.
That's a very good practice, Margaret. And I see Carmina. I mean, you're really right. It's like standing in a bus queue, waiting for the bus to come in the rain and the cold.
I practice that all the time, waiting for buses, and also coming all the way home because it takes an hour to come home in the bus. While everybody tucks and looks at their watch and we're held up and there's roadworks. So
Carmina's asked an interesting question. When we're eating, Why do we feel satisfied, but your body wants more? So we have this sensation that we feel satisfied with what we've eaten, but your body says you want more, but we tell our body we're satisfied. And of course, that's because of our senses. We have so enjoyed the taste of the food. That the taste sensation sends a signal to our body, which our mind then perceives. You want more. That's very nice, thank you very much. Very tasty. I'm like that quite often with curries. You know, sometimes you may go into a restaurant and you order far more than you really need to eat for energy. In an Indian restaurant, you may have a starter and then you have a main course, you'll have rice, you'll have one or two side dishes. And you then discover you can't eat it all. So you have to ask them to put it in a box, and so you can take it home for breakfast the next day. And this is what's happening. I think it's a very good example, Carmina, you picked on. Our taste buds. It may be the smell. Certainly the sight of the colors or the texture sends a message, and our mind perceives that. That's very lovely, thank you very much. I want to have more. But your belly sends you a different sensation. During our practice there, my belly was making all sorts of noises because I ate before we came online. And so now I'm digesting, but because it was slightly spicy, my belly's making all these noises, gurgling. I hope you couldn't hear it, by the way.
No.
So it's actually a very good practice that Carmina's pointed out to us, to observe these differences between the sensations of the senses and the sensation of the belly, because they often give us different signals. And if you like, there's a battle going on between what we see and smell and taste and what the belly tells us, and the eyes and the senses are saying, go on, have a bit more. And the belly's saying, no, don't have any more. And this is a very good example of it, practicing mindfulness, observing what's happening, when it's happening, in the moment, without judgment, just noticing. Thank you for that, Carmina. That's a fabulous example. I'm sorry you can't speak back. I think it's because Ajahn may have slipped away to rest a bit. He can't unmute you. I think when he hosts it, he has to unmute you. Okay. Anything else, Margaret, we want to contribute, or Carmina, text?
Well, I find that eating with chocolate.
Eating what?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, I'll only have a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you go back and have another bit.
Yeah. And this is what happens if we become particularly attached to anything. If we become attached to a particular nice food or sweet, or if we become attached to an experience or a feeling, whether it's a positive or negative experience. If we become attached, we develop this sense of wanting more of this and not wanting more of that. I'm like that, Margaret, with wine gums.
Okay.
And I have to, particularly when I'm hill walking, it becomes a source of sugar. But I can easily get through 2 or 3 packets of wine gums when I'm in the hills. So I have to be mindful of that and only have a wine gum when we stop for a rest, you know? And when I'm home, I have to ask my wife, Lena, to hide them away. Really, really. I would eat wine gums for breakfast if I could.
Well, I hide the chocolate, but the only thing is I know where I put it.
But this is in the nature of attachment, isn't it? You know, some people get attached to drugs, some people get attached to drink, some people get attached to this and that. And it can be food, drink, experiences, people. Carmina's managed to unmute. You with us now, Carmina?
Yeah, I was going to type, but can you hear me all right?
Crackly again.
Can you hear me?
Crackly.
Breaking
up. Yeah.
Is it?
So this is in the nature of what we practice with our mindfulness meditation. Not being distracted by stuff. Or if we're attached to particular things, practicing not being attached to those things. So instead of we have a thought and create a story out of it. So Margaret, you suddenly have a thought of the best chocolate in the world. And next thing, your mind's off on a journey to Costa Rica to explore where they grow the coffee. Or in the case of my wine gums, my mind ends up thinking about how can I make them for myself. Yeah. Now, Carmina sent another message. Is it the E numbers making you addicted to confectionery? What do you mean by E numbers, Carmina?
When you look in the ingredients, there's E numbers.
Yeah.
The E numbers in the wine gums.
Yeah. Often it's sugar. This is why you remember that in spite of the government's desire that we eat less sugar and salt, companies put extra sugar and salt in almost everything. That's why they put salt on crisps. Have you ever seen a packet of crisps that doesn't have salt included these days?
Yeah.
We used to have packets of crisps where you had a little blue bag and you could add salt if you wanted to. They don't do that anymore.
No.
And even vegetable crisps have salt added. So this is the very simple examples of attachment that we experience in everyday life. And Carmina, you're right, honey, it's much better for you if you can get good quality honey, which of course is very expensive.
The Manuka honey is very, very expensive.
Okay. So, with all those reflections, let's do our loving kindness meditation to end. And I think Margaret Carmina's frozen. And she's trying to talk and nothing's coming through. So let's just find our comfortable position again. Carmina's back. You were frozen there for a moment, Carmina, but that's okay. Find that comfortable position. Create the intention again just to maintain our posture for a few moments. Generating that sense of loving kindness and compassion in our hearts. Feeling it, touching it with our hand. Feel the warmth. Letting go of all negativities. Just feeling that loving kindness and compassion. Looking in a mirror. Just imagine you're in the bathroom looking in the mirror. Smiling to yourself. Hi there. Good to see you. You're looking really good. Be joyful. Have a great day. You're wishing yourself happiness, peacefulness. With the practice of mindfulness, freedom from suffering of body and mind. Wishing for yourself compassion, kindness, caring, and generosity to yourself. And to all other sentient beings, those who have been kind and those who have been unkind, loved ones and dear ones, other family and friends, no matter how much they've hurt us, or how generous they've been. They all deserve happiness and peacefulness. So that we wish that they'll find it. We wish that they'll find caring and compassion. Generosity. May they all be happy. Really feeling it. May they all be happy and peaceful. May they all be free from suffering of body and mind. Really smiling in our hearts when we say that. May they all be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. all other sentient beings, visible and invisible. We wish happiness and peacefulness and freedom from suffering of body and mind. Knowing that all over the world there are people practicing as we are, sending their loving kindness and compassion to us. They don't know us, they've never seen us, but they're sending it. Millions of people all over the world. We accept that with gratitude. And we hold that feeling of gratitude, loving kindness and compassion. Into the rest of the day and the rest of the week. Carry it with us wherever we go. Stay with that feeling for just a few moments. Notice how it feels. And smiling to ourselves. When you're ready, gently open the eyes and reflect for a few moments. Okay, I don't know if Jean is still there. I suspect he's gone away to rest. So, Amina and Margaret, want to thank you for joining us. Sorry, Kamina, you've had again some problems with the sound, but your typing is very good. And thank you for that example, Margaret, of your family get together. And Carmina, thank you for your wonderful example of the difference between the belly and the mind. It's echoing.
It's echoing, I'm saying, I thought you.
Thank you both so much. See you next
Thank you
time.
very
Bye-bye
much.
for now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.